He thought he was buying a wife, but he was actually feeding his own destruction. From the outside, this is a scandalous billionaire marriage story, but beneath it, the tragedy is sharper. Damien believes power can control love, trauma, and loyalty the same way it controls money. Avery enters his world as a contract, not a partner, yet she becomes the one mirror he cannot manipulate. In trying to build legitimacy through a fake marriage, he accidentally nurtures the one thing men like him fear most: real intimacy. And in a family built on violence, love becomes the most dangerous rebellion of all.
So Avery Lane pops back into existence to find she's cuffed to a total stranger. A billionaire crime king with two offers. She can either play his wife for 6 months, or watch him torch what's left of her life. A desperate deal made in a Vegas palace is about to explode into a war zone when their fake world gets riddled with bullets. She bailed. He got left for dead. Now she's a ghost at his hospital bed, completely wrecked, wondering if any amount of love is worth the lies, the violence, and a guy the world already wrote off. Our story drops in right as hers shatters. The first thing she registers is silk. And this ain't the cheap knockoff stuff. This is the real deal. The kind that feels like water on your skin and costs more than her rent. Next, the Nevada sun slices through giant windows she's never seen. The third hit, the ring. A massive alien diamond sitting on her left hand, judging her. She shoots up and her skull screams in protest. The hangover hits like a freight train. The room's a tilt-a-whirl. She's sick and her eyes are pounding. Her mouth is a wasteland of bad tequila and worse choices. Then she looks down and sees she's in a silk slip she definitely doesn't own. "Oh, God," she whispers. "Oh, no, no, no." The bedroom is massive and sterile, dripping with the kind of quiet cash that takes generations to build. Dark walls, pricey modern art, and furniture ripped from a design mag. This is light years from her dump in Henderson. This is a place she was never supposed to see. Avery puts her feet on the floor, and that's when she hears his voice. "You are awake." She spins too fast, and the whole world tips over. Framed in the doorway is a man she has zero memory of ever meeting. He's tall, dark-haired, and rocking a suit that's way too sharp for this early. His face is carved like a statue, but his eyes lock onto her. They're the color of steel, analytical, the eyes of a predator who sees everything and reveals nothing. "Who the hell are you?" Avery's voice is a raw croak. "Damien Vascari," he says, like the name explains it all. "Your husband." Those two words just hang there, about to shatter. He strolls in with the vibe of a guy who owns the air in the room and now apparently her too. From his pocket, he pulls out a folded paper. A marriage certificate Clark County issued 3 hours ago. Avery stares at the thing like it's about to strike. Impossible. "The Bourbon Street Wedding Chapel. You fashioned a veil from cocktail napkins? I hear your vows were quite touching." His tone is flat, bored, but there's a serious threat under it. "You have no memory of this." "I don't remember things that didn't happen." Nevada law seems to disagree. She rips the paper from his hand, and there it is, her own signature. A chaotic, hammered scrawl, but it's hers. Next to it, his, Damien Vascari, time-stamped at 2:47 in the morning, mere hours ago. This is nuts. Avery's hands are shaking. "Look, this can't be real. We can get it annulled right now." "Oh, we could." Damien just crosses his arms, chilling in the doorway like he's God all day. "Or you could listen to my proposal." "Listen to you?" A sharp, disbelieving laugh bursts out of her. "I wake up in some guy's bed wearing—" She points to the slip. "Did you put this on me?" "My housekeeper handled it. You ruined your dress with champagne." "Oh, awesome. That totally makes this okay. Sit." "I'm sorry." "Sit." It wasn't a question. The raw power in his voice makes her knees buckle. She drops onto the bed, gripping the certificate like a cursed relic. Damien steps closer, looming over her. He just stands there, hands in his pockets, studying her like a problem he's about to solve. "I'll say this only once," he starts. "Pay attention. Last night, you and I legally got hitched. It's valid. It's a fact. I don't remember it either, but the paper exists. I've got 2 offers. First, I get it annulled. We call it a mistake, and you go back to your life. Okay, yes, I'll take that one. Option 2, he says, plowing right past her. You stay married to me for 6 months. You play the part, smile for the cameras, and sell this fake marriage to my world. For this, I clear your debts, give you a place to stay, and you walk with $500,000. Avery just gawks at him. What? You understood me. You're out of your mind. I am practical. He cocks his head, his look purely clinical. You're drowning, Miss Lane. Student debt, maxed out credit cards, medical bills for your mother. You're 90 days late on rent and your landlord is kicking you out next week? You work 2 jobs and you're still sinking. A cold void rips open in her gut. How do you know that? I know everything. That's disturbing. That's thorough. He moves closer and Avery flinches. He freezes, his face a total mask. I need a wife. You need a lifeline. This is just a transaction. Why? Her voice is way smaller than she wants. Why would a guy like you need a wife? She motions at the room, his suit, him. You have money, you have power. What could I possibly give you? My family has certain requirements. The words are clipped. My grandfather built an empire and his health is shot. He wants to see me settled, respectable. I don't have time for romance. And I have 0 interest in a wife who asks questions or needs feelings. You are available, you are desperate, and under Nevada law, you're already mine. I don't belong to anyone. Then by all means leave. He pulls out his phone, taps the screen, and turns it to her. This is what leaving looks like. She sees it all. Bank statements, past due alerts, creditor demands, the complete and total wreckage of her finances displayed on his phone. It's an invasion, a brutal humiliation. As the worst part is, it's all true. You can't just do this, Avery whispers. I'm not doing a thing. I'm giving you a choice. That's not a choice. It's blackmail. Call it what you will. He slides the phone back in his pocket. You have 10 seconds to make up your mind. 10 seconds? I'm a man on a schedule. You're a monster. 8 seconds. Avery stands up, hating her own powerlessness, hating that this man has dissected her life, found every weakness, and is now twisting the knife. Oh, and what if I refuse? She challenges. Then you can go. A car is waiting to take you home. The annulment papers will be filed before 5 p.m. We will never see each other again. And if I accept, you will be Mrs. Vascari for a period of 6 months. You will live here. You will join me at dinners, corporate events, and wherever I say. You will ask nothing. You will not object. You will follow my instructions without question. At the end, you will leave, rich and free. That's selling myself. No, Damien says, his voice like ice. That is what marriage is. A silent scream claws at her throat. She wants to tear the paper in his face and run from this gilded cage. But the phantom dings of her phone echo in her head. Overdue. Final warning, notice of eviction. The nursing home's calls about her mom's balance. her principal warning that new teachers are always the first to be let go. She pictures her apartment, the ceiling stain, the busted heat. She pictures another night of instant noodles because real food is a luxury. She pictures her mother's vacant stare, her memory slipping away because the care that could save her is a price Avery can never pay. "Why me?" she asks, her voice soft. "Unfortunate timing. We were both wasted. You agreed. This fact makes you an asset. I despise you." "You don't know me enough to." "I know plenty." Damien checks his watch. "Your time has expired. What is your decision?" Avery's eyes drop to the ring. It shatters the light into 1,000 tiny rainbows on the floor, and she feels a crack open deep inside her. It's not a clean break, but it's big enough for all her desperation to flood through. 6 months, she says, her voice hollow. 6 months, and then you let me go. Then you are let go. She lifts her chin, meets his cold, unreadable eyes, and gives one sharp nod. All right, I'll do it. For the first time, something shifts in his expression. It wasn't a smile, but a shadow of what might have been satisfaction. "Excellent. We start immediately." The contract materializes 2 hours later. Avery's in what Damien called the East Sitting Room, a cold space packed with ugly chairs and too much art, staring at a stack of papers. The lawyer, a woman in her 50s with a silver bun and an unimpressed face, just dropped them in front of her. "Review it with care," the lawyer says. "Initial at the bottom of each page." "I don't have counsel." "You don't need one. The agreement is exceptionally clear." Agreements were never clear. A faint smirk played on the lawyer's lips. "You've got more of an edge than you let on." "A compliment, maybe." Avery's gaze scanned the document. It was a maze of legalese that made her head throb, but the conditions were brutally clear. 6 months of public appearances were mandatory, 0 betrayals. Clause 7B was double underlined. No unauthorized media interviews, no mingling with Damien's crew outside official functions. The payoff: her debts instantly cleared, a monthly allowance of $10,000, and a final payout of $500,000 upon the contract's end. "This is absolutely insane," Avery whispered. "It's airtight," the lawyer countered. "Mr. Viscari isn't a fan of half measures." "No, I'm definitely getting that." She kept on reading. There were rules for their living arrangement. She would have a separate room, but had to use Damien's whenever his family was visiting. There were commands for her appearance, a stylist, a shopper, whatever it took to build the right persona. And then the exit clause. If she broke the rules, she'd owe Damien double what he spent on top of his legal fees. "And if he violates it?" Avery challenged. "He won't." "But what if?" The lawyer's face was pure stone. "He will not." Avery's eyes landed on the signature line, her hand starting to tremble again. This was the cliff's edge. The moment her name hit that page, she'd stop being Avery Lane, the broke teacher, and become Avery Viscari, a stranger's wife trapped in a world she'd never truly comprehend. An image of her mother flashed in her mind. The mountain of bills, the eviction threat, the soul-crushing reality of a world that despises the poor. She signed. The lawyer gathered the documents quietly, locked them in a briefcase, and rose. "It's good to have you in the family, Mrs. Viscari." That's not funny. Wasn't trying to be. Damien showed up at noon, his suit jacket gone. Dressed in just a white shirt and slacks, he almost looked like a real person, though the frost in his eyes never thawed. "They're moving your things," he stated flatly. My assistant has the details. You have 1 week to go to your old place for any personal effects. You're kicking me out. You live here now. I never said yes to this. He arched a single brow. You put your name on the contract. I signed it 5 minutes ago. Then let me officially welcome you to your new home. He checked his watch. It was a gesture she was starting to get used to. We're having dinner with my family tonight. 7 o'clock sharp. Pick something suitable. I own nothing suitable for your kind of family dinner. You will shortly. The stylist will be here in 20 minutes. Avery got to her feet, the headache roaring back to life. Could you just for a second stop and admit how completely messed up this is? No. Why should I? Admitting it changes nothing. You made your decision. I made mine. We're both trapped by them now. You didn't decide anything, she fired back. You staged a hostile takeover. It's the same thing. It is not the same thing. Damien watched her for a long, quiet beat, and Avery felt herself crumble under the weight of his gaze. It wasn't cruel. It was just vacant, like he was studying an object before putting it in its place. My family's complicated, he finally stated. They will probe. They'll look for weaknesses. Say nothing. Have no opinions. Just smile, nod, and let me do the talking. So I'm just a prop. You're my wife? Same difference. This time, a muscle by his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but in the same zip code. You're a fast learner. The stylist was a tiny woman named Simone, who chattered nonstop and had rock-solid views on everything. She sized Avery up with one glance and sighed, as if Avery's existence was a personal affront. We have a massive amount of work ahead of us, Simone announced. What is so wrong with me? How long have you got? Avery was then dragged through 2 hours of what Simone called critical intervention. Hair, makeup, outfits. When it was over, Avery didn't know the woman in the mirror. The reflection was composed, chic, and looked ridiculously expensive. She was in a black dress worth more than her old car, heels that set her legs on fire, and jewelry that hummed with serious money. An improvement, Simone said, circling her like a vulture. Not flawless, but an improvement. Thanks. Of course. Now your posture. Straighten up. No slouching. You are married to Damien Viscari, not some mid-level accountant. What is the difference? Around $40 million and a much higher threat level. Avery went still. Threat level? Simone waved the comment away. That's not my area of expertise. Now walk. My walk is fine. Your walk is forgettable. We need an air of royalty. I am a teacher, not a queen. You're a Viscari now. Same difference. By 7 p.m., Avery was standing in the marble entrance hall of Damien's home, decked out in a fortune and feeling like a complete imposter. Her hands refused to be still. Damien appeared at the head of the great staircase, back in a full suit, moving with a casual poise that spoke of a lifetime in formal attire. Are you ready? He asked. No. Excellent. Then we'll go. The car was a black Mercedes with soft leather seats and a driver who operated in total silence. Damien was a solid presence beside her, his face illuminated by the cold light of his phone, as Avery watched the Vegas Strip melt into a smear of light outside the tinted glass. From the quiet opulence of the car, the city looked like a distant spectacle, a life she no longer belonged to. Where are we going? She asked into the silence. My grandfather's estate. How many gold-plated prisons did this family own? 3 in Nevada, 2 in California, and 1 more in Italy. Of course you do, she thought silently. He finally angled his head toward her. Nervous? He asked. Terrified was a better word. Don't be. They're just people. The lie felt like dust in her mouth. Rich people are never just people. A tiny muscle twitched in Damien's jaw. You might have a point. The estate proved her right. A sprawling Mediterranean villa in Summerland with gates, guards, and a staff probably bigger than her whole high school. The driveway was a parade of high-end cars, Bentleys, Maseratis, and a Rolls-Royce that belonged in a museum. Damien's driver pulled to the front where a valet materialized to open Avery's door. Showtime, Damien murmured. He got out before extending a hand to her. His touch was warm, his grip solid, and when her heel snagged on the doorframe, he steadied her without a word. For a brief instant, their eyes connected, and Avery saw something shift in his. It wasn't warmth, but it wasn't ice either. Stay with me, he said, his voice quiet. And remember, you are madly in love with me. I don't even know you. They don't have to know that. The huge door swung open before they reached them, revealing a woman in her 60s with eyes that could cut glass and features just as severe. She wore diamonds like body armor, and her gaze swept over Avery, leaving her feeling completely judged. Damien, the woman said, you kept us waiting. Traffic? There is no traffic in Summerland. In that case, I'm simply late. The woman's focus snapped to Avery. And this, Damien said, is my wife. His hand came to rest on the small of Avery's back, a possessive, easy gesture that felt like a brand. Avery, this is my aunt, Gabriella Viscari. Charmed, Gabriella said, her voice dripping with the opposite sentiment. How very sudden. Life can be unpredictable, Damien shot back, not missing a beat. As they moved inside, Avery's breath hitched. The opulence in here made Damien's place look humble. Ceilings painted with frescoes, marble pillars, priceless art, and people. So many people. Every single person turned as Damien guided her toward what looked like a massive dining hall. Everyone. Damien's voice sliced through the room with a chilling calm. I'd like you to meet Avery, my wife. A heavy, instant quiet fell over the crowd. Then, from the head of the table, a voice like rocks and whiskey broke the silence. Well, the old man grumbled, it's about damn time. The dinner that came next was an exercise in pure survival. Seated to Damien's right, Avery felt the intense pressure of their gazes, every look a silent verdict. The patriarch, Damien's grandmother Lorenzo, lorded over the event like a king, his questions like precision instruments disguised as small talk. So, tell me how you two first met, Lorenzo asked, his steak knife moving with scary accuracy. A charity gala, Damien answered, his voice perfectly smooth. Avery was organizing the event. I was in a foul mood. She made me laugh. From further down the table, a low voice muttered, I didn't think you knew how to laugh. It was from a cousin, a guy with slick hair and a sneer that made Avery's skin crawl. I'm full of surprises, Damien answered, his tone dangerously flat. And you, Avery? Lorenzo's pale eyes zeroed in on her. How do you keep yourself busy? I teach English at a public high school. A teacher? He pronounced the word as if she'd confessed to a crime. How charming. I love it, Avery said, her own voice steady. The students are good kids mostly. And now you will be joining the family business, I assume. The family business? Construction, Damien interjected sharply. So check this out. Avery's at dinner with the Don, Lorenzo, who's throwing shade about her being a bookworm instead of a shark. The whole family gets in on the action. Aunt Gabriella grills her like a detective, and Cousin Marco drops snide remarks about their Vegas wedding. All the while, Avery is so stressed she can't even eat, and Lorenzo is just watching, his face a total blank. Then, as the last dish hits the table, he drops the hammer. So, tell me, why did you agree to marry my complicated grandson, Daman? He lays it out cold. Daman is a ruthless operator, so what makes her think she can handle being his wife? The whole table goes silent, all eyes on her. Then get this. Daman puts a hand on her knee under the table. Is it a threat or support? Who knows? Avery looks between the two men and hits them with this singer. I said yes because he asked, adding, and I believe everyone deserves to be more than they appear. After a tense standoff, Lorenzo just bursts out laughing. This one's got fire, he declares. Don't you dare crush it, Damien. And Damien just says, I'll try not to. Later in the car, Avery can finally breathe again, but she's still shaking from faking a smile for hours. Daman, sitting next to her like a statue, breaks the silence with a compliment. You handled yourself well. Avery admits she thought she was gonna hurl. You hit it, he says. Is your whole family that intense? They are. Great. He actually turns to her, looking almost human, and says she won them over, which is basically impossible. Then he drops the bomb. His grandfather has stage 4 cancer. They've given him 6 months tops. Damon spills the whole truth. Lorenzo wants to see him settled before he kicks the bucket. That's the entire point of their marriage. She's just a piece of the puzzle. The cold reality just crashes down on Avery. I'm so sorry, she says. Don't be, he replies. He's dodged death plenty of times in his line of work. When she asks what work that is, he just stares out the window. Message received. Don't push it. By the time they get to his massive estate, Demon shows her to a lavish, empty room across from his. Rest up, he orders. Tomorrow you start prepping for the next event. Which is? A public art gallery opening, media everywhere. You have to be perfect. Then you better learn to fake it, he says, turning to leave. But Avery calls his name. He stops. Why did you really marry me that night? What did I say? She expects him to just walk off, but he actually faces her, and for a second, the mask slips. You said you wanted to vanish, he tells her, his voice low. You were tired of being invisible, so I made you seen. By trapping me, she shoots back. By giving you a different option, he says. Not the same thing. No, Damon admits. It is not. And with that, he's gone, leaving Avery standing in her gilded cage. The wedding ring on her finger feels like a handcuff. Her phone is a dead brick. No calls, no texts. It's like she's been completely erased, a prisoner in a billionaire's mansion playing a role she never auditioned for. The old Avery Lane is history. Now she's Mrs. Vescari, a total stranger. With the gallery event just 3 days away, she's completely adrift. The next morning, a meticulously color-coded schedule appears under her door. 8 in the morning, breakfast with Damien. 9, wardrobe fitting. 11, media training. A 30-minute lunch break. Then at 2 o'clock, a class on proper carriage, which sounds like something out of the Dark Ages. Her bathroom is bigger than her old apartment, and designer clothes have magically filled her closet, their price tags still on. Her old life has been systematically erased. When she gets to the dining hall, Damon is already there, glued to a tablet with a black coffee. He glances up, giving her a look like he's auditing her taxes. "You're on time," he states. "Good." "Yeah, I know how to read a clock," she snaps back. That sarcasm won't help you on Friday night. Neither will Friday night, but here we are. Avery sits down, staring at the insane breakfast spread. A staff member silently fills her coffee cup. "Thank you," Avery says, but Daman shuts it down. "You don't need to thank the staff," he says, not even looking up from his screen. "Why the hell not?" she asks. "They're paid for their service. They're also human beings." He finally gives her his full attention, raising an eyebrow. "You're going to have a hard time adjusting. To being a jerk. To being practical." He puts down the tablet. "This gallery event is huge. My family, my associates, all major players will be there. There will be cameras, reporters, and tons of judgment. Everything you do reflects on me." "Wow, no pressure," she says sarcastically. "I'm serious, Avery." "So am I. I'm a high school English teacher. I don't know anything about this performance." "That's what you have 3 days to learn," he says coldly. Then her media coach shows up, a guy named Richard who smells like a cologne factory and runs on pure caffeine. "Rule number 1, he barks, pacing the library. "You never, ever say no comment. It makes you look guilty." "Guilty of what?" "Doesn't matter. It's all about optics. What if I have nothing to say?" "You pivot. You redirect them to an approved talking point." He shoves a laminated card at her. "Memorize these." Avery reads a list of the most generic, soulless lines imaginable. "These sound like a corporate press release," she points out. "This is how you don't drown," Richard retorts. "Okay, practice time. I'm a reporter." He shoves an imaginary mic in her face. "Mrs. Viscari, how does it feel to marry into one of Vegas's most powerful families?" Avery stalls. Too slow. A pause means you're hiding something. Again!" He repeats the question. "It's lovely," she manages. Richard groans like he's in physical pain. "Lovely. She says it's lovely. We are absolutely screwed." For 2 solid hours, they drilled. By the end, Avery could recite the lines in her sleep, but she felt like a total fraud. Then came posture lessons with a woman named Celeste, who seemed personally offended by Avery's existence. Celeste forced her to walk around with a book on her head. "Shoulders back," she'd command. "Chin up. You're not a turtle. I'm a teacher. I slouch over papers. You are Mrs. Viscari now. You will be graceful and you will smile." The book clattered to the floor for the 5th time, and Celeste sighed like her soul was leaving her body. That night, Daman finds her in the library, completely buried in flashcards and cold coffee, trying to memorize a family tree that looks more like a Mafia flowchart. "Still at it," he notes. "How is your cousin Marco married 3 times?" "He's not. It's 2 divorces." This whole diagram is a train wreck. A ghost of a smile actually appears on Daman's face. "You're not wrong." He sits across from her and loosens his tie, and for the first time, she sees him look absolutely exhausted. A kind of tired money can't fix. "Can I ask you something?" Avery asks, feeling bold. He just replies, "You already did." "So, real talk for a sec?" she asked, sizing him up. "Spit it out." "What's with the hate?" "For who?" "Your fam. You talk about them like a hostile takeover, not actual people. Like your whole life's a performance." The silence got real heavy, real fast. Damien's fingers started tapping like crazy, the first time she'd ever seen his ice-cool facade crack. "Not hate," he finally grunted. "Zero trust." "That's way worse." "Maybe." He got up, fixing his jacket. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow's gonna be a whole other level of fake. And boy, was he right. The next day was a 3-hour photo op of staged romance. Fake laughs in the garden, fake reading in the library, and a fake cozy moment in a kitchen. Avery was dead certain Damien had never even seen before. The photographer kept yelling, "Just be natural!" The biggest lie ever. "Put your hand on his shoulder," he ordered. "Perfect! Now look at him like he hung the moon." Avery gave it her best shot, for real, but staring at Damien, all she saw was the guy who owned her for the next 6 months. "You're lost in your head," Damien muttered, low-key, just for her. "It's the only real estate I own." "Then find a nicer neighborhood. Something good." She tried to dig up a happy thought. Anything. But her brain just served up a highlight reel of her dumpster fire life. The bills, her mom's empty eyes, the eviction notice. Happiness was a place she'd only seen on postcards. It was that simple, that brutal. "I can't," she breathed. And for a hot second, Damien's whole vibe shifted, something almost human in his eyes. He put his hand over hers, and his touch wasn't cold steel for once. "And just hang on," he whispered. "That's the entire job." The camera shutter clicked, shattering the moment. "Gold!" the photographer screamed. "Total magic. We got the shot." That night, Avery was floating in a king-size bed, staring at the ceiling. Down the hall, she could hear Damien's ghost life, footsteps, a muffled call, words swallowed by the mansion. And then, absolutely nothing. She started wondering if he was even human. Did this whole sham ever get to him, or was she just another line item on a balance sheet? Her phone buzzed. A text from a blocked number. "Tomorrow, 10 a.m., East Sitting Room. Come alone." Avery was like, "What the heck?" She almost deleted it, but something made her text back. "Who is this?" The answer was instant. "Gabriella, we need to talk." And there she was, Gabriella Viscari, already waiting when Avery got there, perched in an armchair like it was the Iron Throne. And honestly, who was gonna argue? The queen bee was decked out, jewels blinding, with a look that could give you frostbite. "Sit," Gabriella ordered. Not a request. Avery sat. "Coffee." "I'm good, thanks." "Smart girl, caffeine is for the weak-willed." Gabriella then took a sip of her own coffee, because rules are for other people. Her glare felt like a physical punch. "All right, let's cut the crap. This marriage is a complete sham." Ice formed in Avery's gut. "I have no idea what you mean." "Stop it. I've been navigating this snake pit for 40 years. I know a real marriage when I see one, and this ain't it." Gabriella leaned in. "So let's get to it. What's your endgame?" "I don't have one. Everyone's got an angle. Cash, power, 15 minutes of fame before you sell your tell-all." "I signed an NDA." "And NDAs are just paper. Everything breaks if you push in the right spot." Avery's hands turned into fists in her lap. "Look, I don't want to break a thing. I just gotta survive the next 6 months." 6 months? Gabriella's eyes lit up like a predator spotting prey. "So specific. It is a contract, then." "I never said that." "You screamed it." The matriarch leaned back, practically scanning Avery with X-ray vision. "You're smarter than you look, I'll give you that. Damien needs that. His last girl had the personality of a wet napkin." "There was someone else?" "A few. They didn't make the cut." She sipped her coffee. "But you're a new model." "How?" "You're scared spitless. And it's real. The others baked it. Oh, you know you don't belong here. And you're not even trying to fake it. That's either gutsy as hell or monumentally stupid. My money's on stupid." For the first time, Gabriella actually smiled. It wasn't friendly, but it was legit. I shouldn't be, but I'm interested. So here's a free tip. Just make it through the first month. And then things chill out. Whose pressure? All of it. Gabriella got up, fixing her silk skirt. Oh, and Avery, forget everything you think you know about us. It's all a show. We're a family of ghosts and mirrors, every last one. And with that, she was gone, leaving Avery's heart pounding in the dead quiet. The message, as weird as it was crystal clear. She'd walked into a maze, not a business arrangement, a maze with invisible deadly walls. The gallery party hit her like a freight train. Simone worked on her for 4 hours, turning her into some red carpet bombshell. The dress was midnight black with a slit that was giving her a low-grade panic attack. Her hair, her makeup. The chick in the mirror was a total stranger. You're a business asset now, Simone nodded, pleased. That's the whole point. Then Damien showed up, and for the first time ever, he actually froze. His eyes did a full scan, and that iron mask he always wore definitely slipped a little. You look, he trailed off. Like an asset, Avery finished for him. I was going for breathtaking, but yeah, that works too. The gallery was some bougie warehouse in the heart of Vegas, turned into a slick temple for modern art. As they rolled up, a wall of paparazzi swarmed them, a full-on assault of camera flashes and shouting. Okay, listen up, Damien said as the car stopped. Smile, wave, keep your mouth shut, let me handle this mob. But what if they ask me something? Dodge it. You had 2 hours of training for this exact moment. The door swung open to pure chaos. Damien got out, then reached back for her. His grip was a vice as she stepped into the hurricane of lights and noise. Mr. Viscari, over here. Who's the new girl? Is the wedding rumor true? Damien's arm snapped around her waist, yanking her against him. To the world, it looked like a power couple move. All Avery felt was cold, calculated control. Smile, he hissed in her ear. So she smiled. She pasted one on until her cheeks hurt, waving at nothing, letting Damien bulldoze them through the press and into the building. Inside was just a different kind of war zone. Gorgeous people, endless booze, an art that cost more than a small country. Don't you dare move from my side, Damien commanded. And yeah, Avery wasn't planning on it. They got about 10 minutes apiece before some guy cut them off. He was in his 50s, silver hair, and the dead eyes of a shark. This dude screamed, "Boss!" "Damien," the guy oozed, his voice dripping with fake friendliness. "Heard you tied the knot. Victor." Damien's voice dropped 20 degrees. "This is my wife, Avery. Avery, Victor Castellano, the shark who owns half the city." "Only half," Victor smirked, his eyes glued to Avery. "The photos don't do you justice, so tell me, how did you finally bag the biggest whale in Vegas?" "I didn't bag him," Avery replied, remembering her lines. "We just got lucky and found each other." How poetic. Victor's smile was all teeth. "So what's your story, Avery?" "I'm a teacher." How noble, he said, like she'd just confessed to a terminal illness. "I'm sure Damien can get you a real job now." "Teaching is a real job," Avery shot back, shocking herself with her own nerve. "It's important." Sure. Victor snapped his focus back to Damien. "We have to talk about the Henderson deal." "Not now, Victor." "The clock's ticking." "It always is with you." Damien's grip on her got tighter. "My office, tomorrow." Victor's phony smile died. "Tomorrow." He gave Avery a nod. "Pleasure, Mrs. Viscari." The second he walked off, Avery finally breathed out, "I absolutely hate that guy. Join the club, but he's a necessary evil. For what? Business." Damien pulled her toward a less crowded corner. "You did good back there." I wanted to punch him in the face. Me too, but that's not the playbook. So what is the playbook? Before he could answer, Lorenzo just appeared. The old Don moved slow with a cane so that the crowd split for him like he was Moses. "Grandfather," Damien said, his voice totally dead. "You brought the girl." Lorenzo's cloudy eyes locked onto Avery. "Good. Let me see what you bought." Avery stood her ground while he sized her up like a piece of meat at market. But she stared right back, refusing to blink. "She'll do," Lorenzo declared after a heavy pause. "She's got some spark. Good. Damen needs a wife who won't shatter." "I'm not some kind of dog," Avery shot back, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. A rough laugh rumbled from Lorenzo's gut, the same one she'd heard at dinner. "No, that's obvious. Now walk with me. We'll let Damen handle his affairs." It was a clear order, not a request. As Lorenzo began to move, Avery had to follow, feeling Damen's eyes burning into her back. The old boss led her to a quieter part of the gallery, into alcoves where abstract paintings were swallowed by deep shadows. "You know anything about art?" Lorenzo grunted. "A little. My degree is in literature, not painting." "Perfect. People who claim to know art are usually full of it." He halted before a painting that was pure, colorful rage on canvas. "Tell me what you see in that." Avery gave it a hard look. "It's chaos with a goal, anger with a very specific target." "Precisely!" Lorenzo's cane clicked up the marble. "That right there is my grandson, a hurricane under control. He's been that way since he was a kid. You know the reason?" "No. It's because his father was assassinated when he was 8 years old. They called it a car crash. But it was no crash. It was a statement, a hit from a rival family." Lorenzo's tone was ice cold and distant. "And Damen was the one who found him." A sharp gasp stuck in Avery's throat. "That's monstrous." "It is. But that's the fire that made him the man he is today. Driven, dangerous, and has zero mercy when he needs it." Lorenzo spun around, his eyes locking onto hers. "I'm telling you this so you get what kind of world you just walked into. This family doesn't follow normal rules. We don't have that luxury." "So what rules do you follow?" "Our own." His gaze raked over her face. "Does all this freak you out?" "Should it?" "It should, but I get the feeling you don't spook easily. I saw how you dealt with Gabriella." "He knew about that?" "She tells me everything." The ghost of a smile touched Lorenzo's lips. "She's taken a shine to you." "That's a first. Gabriella hates everyone. I got that vibe. Here's some free advice, kid. The next 6 months are a trial by fire. My family will judge you. They'll poke at you. They'll hunt for your weak spots. A couple might even try to ruin you, just to see if you'll break. You can't let them." "How am I supposed to stop them?" "By remembering you're a Viscari now. That name is your shield and your sword. Use it." He started walking again, and Avery trailed behind, her head spinning. Every one of Lorenzo's sentences was both a threat and a welcome. When they got back to the main gallery, Damen was in a deep huddle with guys in slick suits. His head snapped up as they got closer, and a whole silent movie played out between him and his grandfather in one look. "I'm wiped," Lorenzo announced. "Get me home." "I can get Marco." "Not Marco, you too." The ride to Lorenzo's estate was buried in silence. The old Don rode shotgun. Damen was behind the wheel, and Avery sat in the back, just watching the Vegas city lights smear against the glass. When they pulled up, Lorenzo stayed put in the car. "Damen," he said, "I need a word, in private." Avery got out without being asked, waiting by the car as the two men spoke in hushed tones. She couldn't make out the words, but Lorenzo's hands were cutting through the air while Damen just stood there, soaking it all in with that poker face of his. Finally, Lorenzo emerged. He stopped next to Avery. "You'll be at dinner Sunday." It was a command. "Yes, sir." "Good. And Avery, trust nobody, not even him." He jerked his head toward Damen. "Especially not him." Then he vanished into the mansion, leaving Avery with a chill that had nothing to do with the night air. Damen materialized at her side. "What did he say to you?" His voice was tight. "Nothing. It wasn't important. He's trapped in his own paranoia. The meds just make it worse." "He seemed perfectly sane to me." Damen didn't have a comeback for that. They slipped back into the car, and the ride home was thick with things they weren't saying. Back at the mansion, Avery made a beeline for her room, feeling completely drained. But her hand froze on the doorknob when Damen's voice cut through the silence. "You did good tonight." She spun around. He was in his own doorway, jacket off, tie yanked loose. For a split second, he looked almost normal, almost breakable. "Your grandfather told me about what happened to your father," Avery said softly. A shadow of pain flickered across Damen's face. "He shouldn't have done that." "He wanted me to understand you." "There's nothing to get. That was another lifetime. You were just a kid." "I'm not a kid anymore." He retreated back into his room. "Good night, Avery." The lock clicked, shutting her out. She went into her room, bolted the door, and sank onto her bed. Her phone lit up, a text from a blocked number. "Welcome to the family. Watch your six." She stared at the screen forever before deleting the message. But the words stuck around, a ghost whispering in the dark. That anonymous threat hung over her for days, but it was followed by nothing. No more warnings, just a thick silence that felt way more threatening than any text. Her life settled into a bizarre pattern. Mornings were for tense coffee sessions with Damen, where they sat like two generals plotting a ceasefire. Her afternoons were spent with Simone, learning how to walk, talk, and breathe like she was Mrs. Viscari. The nights blurred into an endless stream of charity events and family dinners where every single smile was a total lie. And underneath it all was the crushing pressure of the big fake-out, pretending she belonged, pretending she loved this man, and pretending this was more than a contract with a countdown timer. But then around the third week, something started to shift. You could barely notice it at first. Damen started asking for her opinion on tiny things, which tie to where if the caterer should serve salmon or chicken, or if the Picasso looked better than the Rothko in the East Hall. It was all small stuff, choices that meant nothing, except they didn't feel like nothing when he actually took her advice. Then came the morning she went downstairs and found her favorite coffee waiting. Not the fancy stuff Damen drank, but the cheap vanilla creamer she'd mentioned offhand weeks ago, a little piece of the life she'd left behind. "Where did this come from?" she asked, staring at the bottle. Damen didn't look up from his phone. "The kitchen." "I never asked the kitchen for it." "I did." "Why?" "You said you liked it." "I said it one time." Once was all it took. He finally met her eyes, and they looked different, warmer. "Stop interrogating the coffee, Avery. Just drink it." And she did. It was a taste of her past, From a time that was both easier and way worse, but a time that was at least hers. The Sunday dinners at Lorenzo's place became a weekly punishment. It was always the same crowd, the same loaded questions hiding behind polite conversation, and that constant feeling of being judged and written off. Marco, the cousin with the slicked back hair and greedy stare, always made a point to corner her when Damen was busy. So, Marco slithered up one night, trapping her near the bar while Damen was talking to some uncle Avery couldn't name. "How's the married life treating you?" "It's fine," Avery said, her voice flat. "Just fine? That sounds incredibly boring." "I am incredibly boring." "Somehow I don't buy that." Marco edged closer, his expensive cologne failing to mask the whiskey on his breath. "I think you're just playing a part. We all are. The real question is, what's your endgame?" "Nothing." "Everybody wants something. Cash, protection, a taste of this life before you bolt." "I want you to back up." Marco chuckled, but he stayed right where he was. "You got a little bite to you. I dig that. Damen always did go for the complicated ones." "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means you're not the first girl who thought she could tame him, but you might be the first one who—" "Marco." Damen's voice sliced through party chatter like a knife. He was instantly at Avery's side, his face a mask of stone. "Leave." "Hey, we were just talking." "No, you were crowding my wife. Big difference." Marco's smug grin finally cracked. He put his hands up like he was surrendering. "Whoa, cousin, just being friendly." "Go be friendly over there." As Marco scurried off, Avery let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Damen's hand settled on the small of her back, a gesture that felt like both a shield and a claim. "You okay?" he asked quietly. "I can handle Marco." "I know you can, but you shouldn't have to." He guided her away from the bar, into the quieter dining room. "The guy's a moron. Pay him no mind." "He said I wasn't the first." "You're not." The raw honesty in his response stung more than she'd thought it would. "How many have there been?" "Does it make a difference?" "Maybe." Damen stopped walking. They were alone in the hallway, away from the noise, and he faced her. 3. Over the last 5 years, all of them were arrangements just like ours. None of them lasted more than a few months. What happened to them? They wanted something from me I couldn't provide. What did they want? Me. He said the word so plainly, like it was the most obvious answer in the world. The actual me, not the deal, not the act. They wanted a guy that I don't know how to be. Avery stared into his eyes, looking for any sign of a lie. All she found was a harsh, unsettling truth. "And me? You're different." "How?" "You don't want me. So Avery wants to bail, and he claims that makes her less of a risk." "For who, my guy?" "For both of them, apparently." But before she can even clap back, Gabriella pops up, yelling that dinner's ready. The meal is a complete freak show. Lorenzo, the Don, tells sanitized mob stories while Gabriella gives everyone the evil eye. Marco's in full emo mode. Damen's family trades verbal cheap shots. And Avery, she just smiles and nods, realizing with horror that she's learning the rules to their twisted game. After dinner, Lorenzo corners Damen for their usual secret meeting. It's a Sunday thing that leaves Damen tight-jawed and silent all the way home. Avery never asks, because who wants to know that? But tonight, Damen breaks the silence. "He wants us to move into the main house." Avery's head whips around. "What?" "Apparently, Grandpa insists it's tradition for the heir to live on the compound. "You're the heir?" she asks, completely floored. "I'm the eldest grandson. It's how it works." "And what did you say?" I told him no. Just like that, stone cold. Damon shuts off the engine but doesn't move. "I don't want you living there. It's already hard enough keeping you safe here." That one word hangs in the air. Safe. Not happy, not good. Safe. "Am I in danger?" Avery asks, her voice super quiet. Damon's jaw clenches. "No. You're lying. I'm being careful. Not the same thing, Damon. Just drop it, Avery." He gets out, ending the convo, but Avery can't drop it. That night, she does the one thing she's been putting off for weeks. She Googles Damien Viscari. But under all the shiny PR, she finds some seriously dark rumors, whispers and accusations, and an article from 5 years ago linking the Viscari family to the criminal underworld. The writer played it safe with words like alleged and rumored, but the picture it painted was grim. Cleansed cash, racketeering, and business rivals who had a bad habit of disappearing. Avery slams the laptop shut, her eyes glued to the ceiling. She'd felt it, that this family was shady. In Lorenzo's threats, Gabriella's weird comments, and the fear disguised as respect from the staff, but seeing it in print makes it terrifyingly real. She married a criminal, or a mob prince, whatever was lurking in that gray area. Her phone buzzes. It's the mystery number again. "Still think you're safe?" Her hand is shaking as she types, "Who are you?" No reply. She waits 10 minutes, then 20, then an hour. Just silence. A chilling silence and the gut-punch realization that she's stumbled into something way more dangerous than a fake marriage. The next morning, Damon finds her in the library, surrounded by her old teaching stuff. Lesson plans, papers, and a beat-up copy of The Great Gatsby. "You miss it," he says. It wasn't a question, it was a statement of fact. "Every single day." "You could go back after." "Really? Could I?" Avery looks him dead in the eye. "I've been gone almost a month. They already hired someone else." I checked. "So I'll teach somewhere else." "Where?" "What school hires a Viscari for half a year? They'll think I'm a bored rich girl, or doing research. Or that I took time off to get married, which I did." "Did you?" Damon pulls up a chair, looking absolutely exhausted. She was getting good at reading his tells. The tension in his shoulders, the hard line of his jaw, the tiny crease between his eyebrows. "What did you learn?" he asks. "What are you talking about?" "Last night you were looking me up. It's written all over your face." A cold dread fills Avery's stomach. "How did you?" "I control the network. I monitor every single device in this house." "That's a total invasion of privacy." "It's security." He leans in. "What did you find?" "Articles, allegations, rumors that your family is tied to organized crime. And you need to tell me if it's true." Damon stays quiet for way too long. When he finally speaks, his voice is super controlled. "My grandfather built an empire. Some of it was legal, some of it wasn't. By the time I figured it all out, the lines were gone." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you're getting." Avery tries to find the right words. Are you part of his business?" "I run the legitimate side. Real estate, construction, all that. I stay away from the other stuff." "But you know about it." Knowing isn't the same as participating. "It's pretty damn close." Damon shoots to his feet so fast that Avery flinches. He sees it and his expression just cracks. "I'm not going to hurt you." "I didn't say you were." "You pulled back." "You moved really fast." "I am not my family, Avery. I don't—" He stops, running a hand through his hair. It was the first time she'd ever seen him look so lost. I have spent my entire adult life trying to build something clean, something that won't blow up in my face when my grandfather dies and they all start fighting over the scraps. This marriage, this ridiculous, fake, temporary marriage, is a part of that plan. It gives me time. It makes me look stable. It's leverage. So I'm just a tool. You're a solution. There's a difference. Not from where I'm sitting. They faced off across the desk, and a hot anger started to boil inside Avery. Anger at him for dragging her into this, at herself for agreeing, and at the world for cornering her, so this seemed like her only option. I want out, she said, her voice low. No, you don't. Yes, I do. Then leave. Damon's voice was pure ice, his face a perfect cold mask. The door's not locked. You can walk right out. I'll get the annulment papers filed by morning, and I'll still have my debts. That was the deal. That's not fair. No, it isn't, but it's the truth. He walks to the door, then looks back. You have a choice, Avery. You always have a choice. The real question is, if you're brave enough to live with the consequences. He left her there, shaking with a mix of rage, fear, and something else she couldn't name. She looked down at her copy of The Great Gatsby, at the green light on the cover, thinking about reaching for something you can never have. She thought about wanting and getting and losing. In the end, she did not leave. That night, she walks into his study while he's looking over some important-looking papers. He looks up when she comes in. I'm staying, Avery tells him. I know. But you need to be 100% straight with me. No more surprises, no more secrets. That's not how this deal works. Then change the deal. Damon sets his pen down. You're asking me to trust you. I'm asking you to treat me like a person, not a pawn in your game. He thinks about it for a second. What do you want to know? Everything, Avery says, sitting down across from him. Starting with who is sending me threatening text messages. Damon's face gets dark. Show me. She grabs her phone and hands it over. He scrolls through the text, his expression turning to stone. How long has this been happening? 3 weeks. It started right after the gallery opening. And you just didn't think to tell me. I wasn't sure if I could trust you. Damn it, Avery. He stands up, pacing back and forth. This is serious. This is... He cuts himself off and pulls out his phone to make a call. I need a trace on a number. Send me what you find as soon as you have it. He reads off the digits from her phone and hangs up. You're getting a new phone tomorrow and a security team. I'm not having a security team. You don't have a choice. Someone is threatening you, which means they know about our deal, which means... He stops himself. I have to handle this. Handle it? How? That doesn't concern you. It 100% concerns me if I'm the one being targeted. Damon closes the distance between them, crouching to look her in the eye. His gray eyes were intense, almost scary. You need to get something straight. The world I live in is dangerous. People see weakness and they pounce. Being married to me makes you a target. I can protect you, but only if you let me. By keeping me in the dark. By keeping you alive. The weight of his words filled the room. Avery swallowed hard. Who would want to hurt me? Competitors, enemies, people who think you're an easy way to get to me. He stood up to his full height. I was careful. I kept our marriage quiet, but clearly someone has been watching. She asks, Is your family behind this? Nope. They hate you, but they wouldn't pull this. That's a line you don't cross. So who did then? Don't have a name, but trust me, I'll get one. The very next day, the muscle showed up. 2 guys built like brick walls, flanking the door and shadowing Avery's every move. The air got tight, a constant choking feeling that screamed her life wasn't hers. This is literally a prison, she tells Damen. You're being protected. It feels the exact same. It's not even close. The threats vanished, but Avery couldn't shake the creepy feeling of being watched. Every car that got too close, every stranger who stared too long at the market, every shadow that looked off. She felt hunted by ghosts, and she hated every second of it. 2 weeks later, Sunday dinner, and boom, Lorenzo collapses. It happened in a split second. 1 minute, he's telling some story about a deal back in the 70s. The next, he's just a heap in his chair, face gray, barely breathing. The room just explodes into chaos. Gabriella is screaming for an ambulance. Damen is already by his grandpa's side, trying to find a pulse. Marco is yelling into his phone. And Avery is just frozen, a spectator watching the dynasty that owned her completely unravel. The ambulance arrives. Lorenzo gets whisked off to the hospital. The family follows in a convoy of slick black cars, and Avery's stuck in a sterile waiting room, surrounded by Viscaris whose masks are finally off. Gabriella is just openly sobbing. Marco is pacing a hole in the floor. Damen is a statue by the window, staring blankly, his jaw clenched so tight Avery thought it might crack. She walked up to him like you'd approach a cornered wild animal. "Are you okay?" His answer was dead inside, final. "He's dying." "But they said he's stable." "He's dying," Damen repeated. "This is the beginning of the end. The doctors told us months ago. His heart's giving out. The cancer treatments took everything else. It's just a matter of time." "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "Don't be. He outlasted most guys in our world. He always knew the price." "But that doesn't make it any easier to take." Damen finally met her gaze, and for a split second, his whole facade cracked. She saw raw, unguarded fear. "When he's gone," he said, his words sounding like a dark prophecy, "everything changes. The family, the business, every alliance he kept for 40 years, they're all gonna implode. It's gonna be a war for his throne, and you're the one who's supposed to take it. I'm the one who's supposed to try. And if you fail, someone else wins, someone much, much worse." He turned back to the window. "I just need him to hang on 6 more months. Just 6, and this sham marriage will have paid off." To make them look legit, cemented, untouchable. But when she asked if the old man could last 6 months, Damen's response was pure silence. Lorenzo made it through the night. He was moved to intensive care, tethered to a chorus of machines that were breathing for him. The family kept a constant vigil, a rotation of pale-faced ghosts by his bed. Avery ended up there at 3 a.m, the machines sighing for him while Damen was passed out in a chair. The old man's eyes fluttered open, lost in the fog. Then they focused on her. "You're still here," he rasped. "Where else would I be?" "Sharp girl." His hand twitched and she took it in hers. His skin was paper-thin and cold. "Do you love him yet?" "What?" "Damen, do you love him?" A perfect lie formed on her tongue, one of the slick answers her father had drilled into her. But Lorenzo's stare cut right through the BS, and the truth just tumbled out. "I don't know." A faint, grim smile touched Lorenzo's lips, a mix of pain and respect. The only honest answer. Love isn't something you know, it's something you survive. His grip got tighter. You're what he needs. You're his humanity. Don't let him lose it when I'm gone. You're not going anywhere. We're all going somewhere, little one. The real question is if the memory we leave behind means anything. His eyes drifted shut. Watch him. He'll need you. Lorenzo slipped away, leaving Avery crushed by the weight of a dying man's last order. Across the room, Daman stirred. He looked from his grandfather to her, and a silent message passed between them. A shared surrender to the reality that the ground was crumbling beneath them and they were helpless to stop it. Come here, Daman mumbled. Avery went, and he pulled her down into his lap, his arm tightening around her as she finally let herself lean on him. Not for show, not for any hidden cameras, but because for the first time in this whole damn nightmare, she actually desperately needed it. They stayed like that until dawn, when the doctor said Lorenzo was stable enough for recovery. The family came back and the performance started all over again. And yet, the vibe between Avery and Daman had changed, subtle but complete. The line between the act and reality was starting to seriously blur. 3 weeks later, Lorenzo came home, a shadow of his former self, but alive. The family had a quiet dinner, if the Viscaris could ever really do quiet. Avery had given up trying to track all the endless events. They'd all smeared into a big blur of tense smiles and careful words, all under the crushing pressure of being watched and judged by a standard she didn't get. But since the hospital, Damon's touch was different. It was nothing obvious for the world to see, but his hand would find hers under the table. He'd pull her closer in a packed room, his palm resting on her back like it always belonged there. And in the middle of the night, she could hear him pacing restlessly across the hall. On 2 different nights, she found him standing in her doorway, just watching, as if checking she hadn't vanished into thin air. You don't have to do that, she'd said. Do what? Stand guard. I'm not standing guard, He fumbled for a word. Making sure you're okay. I'm fine. You're never fine. Neither am I, but we're both still here. There was zero romance in it. Nothing sweet. It was, however, the absolute truth. And Avery was starting to learn that with Daman, brutal honesty was way more valuable than gold. The morning their whole world cracked open started deceptively quiet, with Avery reading in the library. Actually reading, not just faking it, when Daman blew into the room. His face was chalk white, his jaw set in a way that just screamed disaster. We have to leave, now. Avery put her book down. What is it? In the car. Grab your purse, Avery, now. The command in his voice was a shard of ice. She grabbed her stuff and followed him to a black SUV in the garage. This wasn't one of their normal cars. This one had windows so dark they were basically a confession. Get in the back, Daman ordered, and keep your head down. What in God's name is happening? Someone sold pictures of us from before. Avery's blood ran cold. What pictures? The chapel's security cameras. You, wasted, barely conscious. Me, basically carrying you. It looks... He choked on it. It looks exactly like what it was. How bad is this? Bad enough that it's everywhere. Bad enough that my own family is demanding answers I don't have. Bad enough that his phone started buzzing. He shot it a look that could kill and silenced it. Bad enough that we have to vanish until I can get this contained. They drove for 2 hours, east into the dead center of the desert. Mason, her silent shadow for weeks, only gave short, clipped replies into his phone. Daman was a Category 5 hurricane on his phone, his voice a low, vicious command to soldiers she couldn't see. I don't don't care what they offer. No comment. Nothing. A beat. Then offer them more. Buy every last copy. I want them gone by tonight. Another long pause. Because if you fail, you're done. That's why. He hung up just to dial someone else. Where are we going? Avery whispered. A safe house, completely off-grid. Only Mason and I know about it. And your family? Especially my family doesn't know. They pulled up to a remote cabin. It wasn't rustic. Damen didn't do rustic, but it was totally isolated. Solar panels and a generator could keep it running for weeks. Mason did a sweep of the area as Damen took her inside. It was one big, bare-bones room, a secure, sterile box that felt more like a prison cell. How long do we have to stay here? Avery asked. For as long as it takes. Damen was already scrolling news sites on his phone, his face getting stormier with every photo. Let me see. No. Damen, it's my face. I have a right to know. He stared her down for a long, heavy moment before handing over the phone. I warned you. The headlines were basically a public execution. Billionaire's drunken wedding sham. Teacher in a gilded cage. The photos were a total fever dream. Her with a stupid napkin as a veil, smeared makeup, being held up by some stranger she couldn't remember. The pictures were grainy, but their meaning was perfectly, brutally clear. Clear enough to scream the whole trashy truth. This is bad, she whispered. It's a catastrophe. It creates the one thing I couldn't allow. Doubt. It makes people ask if any of this is real. It isn't. I know that. You know that. But the world can't know that. He took his phone back. And the world is now watching. By morning, the headlines will be savage. Gold digger, coercion, you name it. His family's gonna demand answers. Lorenzo's gonna flip. Damen's spiraling, his entire master plan wrecked by some random security guard needing a payday. Sue them? She asks. Oh, they are, but the damage is done. You can't unring that bell. Avery hits the sofa, shaking, asking what the play is. His plan? Hunker down and hope another scandal steals the spotlight. And if it doesn't? Damen slides right next to her, and for the first time he actually sees her. Then we fight it, together. She's floored. I thought this was a business deal. He admits it was, but now it's gotten messy. How messy, she pushes. Get this. He tells her in the last 3 months she went from being a convenient solution to something vital. Avery is shook. He immediately backpedals. Don't get it twisted. This isn't a love confession. It's a fact. You're vital and I protect my assets. End of story. But she hits back. Is it? He ghosts her, staring into the desert, just mentioning his boy Mason is on watch. We're safe here. No one's getting in. She's like, you think they'd actually try something? He lays it out. When this much money is on the line, people turn into sharks, and our marriage is a feeding frenzy. The rest of the day is dead silent. He's on the phone, handling business. She's staring at a book, not reading a single word. Her mind's just replaying those humiliating pictures, her whole desperate situation exposed. The world now knows their marriage was built on booze and bad choices, not love. As night falls, Diamond gets a fire going and she finds herself inching closer to the heat. He rolls up on the sofa, handing her one of 2 whiskeys. I don't drink, she says, but he's not having it. You did once. Look how that turned out. She deadpans. Not funny. He smirks. A little funny. He offers her the glass anyway. You don't have to drink it, but the option's there. She takes it, watching the booze swirl. I remember nothing from that night. Not a single thing. Her voice cracks. I don't remember meeting you or saying yes. I don't remember becoming this. This what? He asks, his voice soft for once. Mrs. Viscari, the train wreck in those photos. The chick so desperate a stranger's proposal actually sounded like a good idea. He just shakes his head. You weren't desperate. You were drowning. What's the difference? Daman downs a huge gulp of his drink. I've made a ton of messed up calls in my life. Marrying you wasn't one of them. She can't believe it. Even with all this blowing up in our faces? Even now. He puts his glass down, getting serious. Want to know the real reason I went through with it? You thought I needed a disappearing act. That was the theory, yeah, but not why I did it. He turns to face her fully. I did it because for the first time in my entire life, someone looked at me and didn't see the money, didn't see the family name. They just saw some guy in a chapel at 3 a.m. who was just as screwed as they were. You saw a human being. And he chokes on the words, I had to hold on to that. Even if it was fake, even for a second. I needed someone to see me that way just a little longer. Avery's chest tightens up. Daman, But he cuts her off. I'm not looking for a reply. I'm just giving you the truth you wanted. So there it is. The only sound is the fire crackling. You can feel the ground shifting under Avery's feet. The walls she built are starting to crumble. This ice-cold, calculating dude just handed her a raw piece of his soul, and she has zero clue what to do with it. I'm scared, she finally whispers. Of what? Of this. Of you. Of what happens when the 6 months are up and I have to go back to being a nobody. You are not a nobody. I was. Before you, I was invisible. Taught kids who didn't care, drowned in bills, and watched my own mother forget my face every single week. I was sinking, just like you said. And now I'm... She just gestures around, lost for words. I don't even know who I am anymore. You're Avery. That hasn't changed. Everything has changed. Daman reaches for her, super slow, giving her a chance to bail. She doesn't. His hand cups her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. Not everything. She should have pulled away, should have reminded him this was all a temporary contract. But she didn't. She leaned in. And when he kissed her so damn carefully, she kissed him right back. It wasn't some movie magic kiss. No fireworks, no earth-shattering moment. It was just two people who'd been faking it for so long they'd forgotten what was real, trying to find it in each other. They pull apart, and Daman rests his forehead on hers. This is a seriously bad idea. Probably the worst, she breathes out. We should stop. We should. But neither of them moves an inch. I can't promise you anything, he says, his voice low. No happy ending. I can't promise I won't hurt you. I'm not built that way. Then don't promise anything, Avery says. Just be here with me right now. That's enough. They stay on that couch until the fire burns down to glowing coals. His arm is around her. Her head is on his chest. No talking, no scheming. Just two people in a room without the pressure to perform. Eventually, she just conks out. When Avery wakes up hours later, she's in a bed, tucked in. Daman's crashed on the couch, using his jacket for a pillow, still on watch, still keeping his distance, still trying to control something that's totally spinning out. The next 3 days were weirdly domestic. No family, no parties, no act. Just Avery and Daman in the middle of nowhere, learning how to be real. They talked about random stuff, favorite books, embarrassing childhood stories, all the little things that make up a person. Daman opened up about his dad, the whole ugly truth, finding the body. The funeral where he wasn't allowed to cry because he was an 8-year-old Vascari heir. He told her about the nightmares that wrecked him for years. Avery talked about her mom, the diagnosis that came too late, and the agony of watching someone you love forget you exist. She admitted feeling guilty for not visiting more because every time was a fresh hell. "You're a good daughter," Daman tells her one night while she's cooking. "I'm a terrible daughter. I haven't seen her in weeks. Because you're trapped in a life you didn't ask for. That's not on you. Feels like it is. Most things do. Doesn't make it true." He hands her a knife. "Here, take your guilt out on these onions." Day 4, Mason shows up with news. The lawyers did their thing. The chapel got paid, the video's gone, and a new narrative is out there. The pics were misleading. Just a young couple, a wild elopement, a little too much champagne, nothing to see here, move along. "It won't kill the story completely," Mason says, "but it'll die down. A week, maybe 2. "And my family?" Daman asks. "Gabriella handled them, called it all tabloid trash. Lorenzo bought it. Lorenzo's losing it. He'd buy any story that doesn't mess with his takeover plans. Still, it worked." Mason then looks at Avery. "You're both cleared to go home." Home. The word feels wrong. That mansion was never a home, it was a stage. Going back meant putting the masks back on. And Avery wasn't sure she remembered her lines. The drive back to Vegas is silent. The city lights pop up on the horizon like a fake promise. Avery watches it get closer, a knot tightening in her stomach. She didn't want to go back. She didn't want to get back into the Mrs. Viscari routine. For 4 days, she'd just been Avery, and she had no idea how much she'd missed that girl. "We need to talk about what happened," Daman says, pulling into the driveway. "Do we?" "Yes." "What if I don't want to?" "Then we won't." "But eventually?" "Eventually what? We admit this whole thing isn't an act anymore? That we crossed a line we can't uncross?" Avery turns to him. "What's the play here, Daman? This contract is up in 2 months. Then what?" "I don't know. That's not good enough. It's all I've got." He kills the engine. "I don't know how to do this. Look, I don't know how to give you what you're worth, but And bro, his voice just cracks. He can't even get the words out. "I can't let you go." "But our deal says—" "Forget the deal," he snaps. "This is just me asking. Not the owner of this crib, not your fake husband, me. You want this?" Avery's heart is doing a drum solo against her ribs. This is it, the final choice. Staying means risking it all goes up in flames. Leaving means going back to nothing. There's no winning move. "I don't know," she whispers. Daman just nods, dripping with the disappointment he was totally expecting. "Right." They step inside, and the whole mansion feels different, like its warmth was a lie and the air just got thin and icy. Or maybe Avery's the one who changed, 'cause after 4 days of keeping it real, she can't fake it anymore. Sleep was not on the menu that night. She's just lying in her own cold bed, staring at shadows on the ceiling. Across the hall, she can hear Daman pacing, that restless sound she knows so well. Her phone buzzes on the nightstand, a text from the number she's been trying to block from her memory. "Your time is up. Tomorrow, midnight." The message was straight ice. Come alone, or they get deleted. A cold dread just grabs her. Her brain just shatters as she rockets across the hall and bursts into Damon's room. He spins around like a predator that just sensed a threat. "What's wrong?" She says nothing, just holds up the phone. And in his eyes, she sees a darkness she's never seen before. A rage so pure, so focused, it was straight up lethal. That question, sharp as a knife, just hung in the air. Her answer was barely a whisper. He was already on the move, phone to his ear like a general calling his army. "Get a trace," he commands. "Find them." Then he turns to her, his voice a solid brick wall. "You are not going." Her protest just dies in her throat. "It's a trap," he says flatly, "a play to get you away from my protection. I'm not letting it happen." Her fear was just a tiny question. "But what if it isn't?" "Then I'll deal with it." He closes the gap between them, his hands landing on her shoulders, locking her down in the middle of the chaos. "Listen to me. You stay here. You don't go anywhere without me or Mason. Got it?" Her quiet nod was all the permission he needed to pull her in tight. Pressed against him, their hearts were pounding out the same frantic rhythm. He whispers a promise into her hair. "I won't let them touch you. This ends with me." Her reply was just a breath. "How?" And his answer was chilling. "By becoming the monster they think I am." The next day was pure, slow-motion torture. Mason turned their world into a fortress, adding 3 new stone-faced guards to the perimeter. Damon's whole day was a series of cold commands, barked orders Avery barely understood. Night fell, turning the house into a locked-down tomb, but the attack never came. The silence just got deeper, totally absolute and freaky. At 1 a.m, Damon finally spoke. "A fake-out. They just wanted to scare you." The who question hung around for 2 days before the answer just showed up, totally uninvited. Gabriella was standing on their doorstep, her face set like concrete. "We need a meeting," she announced, "just us 3. They met in Damien's study, where the family's top boss seemed smaller, weighed down by a tiredness Avery had never seen before. With zero fanfare, Gabriella dropped the bomb. It was Marco. The only sign it landed was the way Damien's jaw clenched. "What?" "He hired someone to scare her," she laid it out, "to make her run. He was betting that if she disappeared, it would screw up your standing with Lorenzo, giving him a shot at the throne." "Your proof?" "Last night," Gabriella said, "he showed up at my house drunk and confessed the whole stupid thing. He thought it was funny, a slick move." Gabriella's face turned to granite. "Not slick, idiotic. And now he's a threat to all of us." Damien's question was instant. "Where is he?" "Contained. My people have him on a leash." Her eyes shot from him to Avery. "But this is nowhere near over, Damien. Marco's desperation makes him a wild card. The real war kicks off after Lorenzo is gone. You need to be ready." "I am." "No," she cut him off. "You're compromised. Your thing for her has made you weak." Damien was on his feet in a flash. "Get out, Damien! I said, get out!" After she left, the room was choked with silence. Avery just watched Damon pacing, a guy literally at war with himself, and she saw the exact moment he completely lost that battle. A sudden, violent smack of his hand on the desk broke the quiet. "This is my fault," he hissed. "How could you even say that?" "I'm the one who dragged you into this mess," he shot back. "I made you a target." He stopped, turning to face her. "You have to go right now while you still can. Use the cash, vanish, wipe every trace of this." His voice was totally empty. "What I want doesn't matter." "It matters to me," she pushed back. His answer was one pain-filled question. "Why? I come from a line of psychos. I'm controlling. I've completely wrecked your life and put you in the line of fire. What possible reason is there to stay?" She stepped forward, closing all the space between them. So close she could feel the fear that was powering his anger. "Because you remember I like cheap vanilla creamer," she murmured. "You're the one who watches me at night, the one whose kiss made me feel real," her voice broke. "And maybe I'm just sick of running. Maybe I'm choosing to stay, to face whatever's coming, no matter how terrifying. Even if we crash and burn, maybe you're a risk worth taking." Daman just stared, confused, like she was speaking another language. "You're insane." "Probably," she admitted. "But I'm still here." His question was a dare. "For how long?" "I can't say. Don't ask me for answers I don't have." Her fingers balled up in his shirt, pulling him closer. "I'm with you right now. Isn't that enough?" And then his mouth was on hers. This wasn't some tender kiss. It was desperate and starving, like a guy drowning who just found air. Avery kissed him back with all the pent-up chaos of the last few months. The fear, the confusion, the off-limits desire. They broke apart, gasping for air, and Daman rested his forehead on hers. "I have no idea how this works." "Me neither. We're probably gonna fail, maybe, but we'll face that failure together." But that whole together thing turned out to be way harder than they thought. 3 days after Gabriella's warning, Marco vanished. "He's not dead," Daman clarified when Avery asked, trembling. "Just relocated." He got shipped off to a family estate in Italy with one clear rule: never come back. The order came straight from Lorenzo's sickbed. His voice was weak, but the ruling was final. Family doesn't put family in danger. Marco broke the code. This was the bill. "Will he be safe there?" Avery asked. "Safer than he was here," Daman replied. "Grandfather's mercy has limits, but getting exiled isn't a death sentence. Marco gets to live. He's just not one of us anymore." "And his helper?" "Handled." Avery knew better than to ask what handled meant. She was learning that some answers were better left in the dark. The whole vibe in the mansion changed after that. The security team was still there, but the tension itself was different. Avery's status flipped from prisoner to someone who needed protecting. The shift was quiet but massive. Daman stopped treating her like she was made of glass and started seeing her as a partner who could handle the ugly truth. He told her about blown deals, relatives circling Lorenzo's empire like vultures, the non-stop power plays where only strength gets you any respect. "You don't have to tell me all this," Avery said one night over dinner. A real dinner, just them in the kitchen, eating takeout from cartons with the staff gone. "No, I do. You're in this life now, all the way. You deserve to know the danger. What we're up against." His eyes locked on hers, a new kind of fire burning in them. "Yeah, us." The whole act was done. Avery moved into his room, but most nights they just talked, basically exploring each other's souls in the dark. Daman told her about the nightmare of finding his father. Avery told him about the moment her mom's mind just broke, when she looked at her like a stranger and asked when her own daughter was coming home. They were just laying out their scars for each other like sacred offerings, building something real from the rubble of their pasts. "There's something you should know," Daman said one morning as the sun blasted into the room, lighting up the desert outside. "Lorenzo is fading way faster than anyone thought. His doctors are saying weeks, not months." A knot tightened in Avery's chest. "I'm so sorry." "Don't be. He's accepted it. He told me yesterday he was tired of fighting." Daman's hand found hers under the covers. "But this moves up the timeline. Everything's about to speed up. The family is going to start making their moves. So I need your answer. Are you with me? For real?" After he's gone, there's no middle ground. You're either on my side or you're a liability. How romantic. I'm being real. I know. Avery turned to him. I'm with you, but I want one promise from you. What is it? When it's done, when the power is settled and the crazy dies down, you have to get out. Damien's face went rigid. Get out of what? The family business, the parts of it that live in the shadows. She lays out the only two endings for him, a prison cell or a coffin. Her gaze is locked, dead serious. She tells him she won't stand by and watch him become a martyr for this violent kingdom. Absolutely not. He argues that you can't just quit this life, so she tells him to get creative, to make a new way out. He's smart enough and ruthless when he needs to be. Find another path. Her voice starts to break as she drops the bomb. Because I love you and I refuse to lose you to this life you never chose. The confession just hangs in the air. First time ever. Damien's face flashes through a dozen emotions, landing on pure disbelief. Say it again, he breathes out. He's like, which part? She deadpans. The part where I love you. Then she lays it out. I love you, despite you being a control freak with secrets and absolutely garbage taste in Chinese food. He protests. My taste is flawless, but she roasts him. You ordered sweet and sour pork. That's a crime against cooking. Then he admits it back. I love you too. His confession sounds like it's been locked away for years. He can't pinpoint when it started. Maybe in the chapel when she was drunk and he saw the real her. Or at the hospital when she stayed with his grandfather. It might have been yesterday when she dissed his tie. But it's real, and he just stops, jaw clenched tight. He asks how they're supposed to manage this without shattering everything. She replies, then we'll break it and rebuild it together. Her kiss is a gentle vow. But you have to promise me you'll try to get out of this life before it eats you alive. He swears he will, but not right away. He has to survive the coming storm first, and that storm hit way faster than they expected. By Tuesday, Lorenzo was dead. Avery was there with him at the end. She'd been visiting the old Don a lot while Damien ran the show. Lorenzo enjoyed having her around. He'd share sanitized stories about his past, building an empire from scratch, the choices that still haunted him, and seeing his grandson forced to become cold and calculating way too soon. Lorenzo had told her one day, his voice barely a whisper, his body giving out, but his will still strong, "You're what he needs. You make him want to be a man, not just a king." Avery defends him. He's already a good man. But Lorenzo shakes his head. No. He's the weapon I forged. Sharp, cold, a tool. The old Don's tired eyes lock onto hers. But you're changing him. You're making him human again. Don't let him lose that when I'm gone. She promises he won't. Lorenzo demands, swear it. Swear you'll protect the man inside the king. She swears. A tiny smile appears on his face. Good girl. Then his eyes close. For a moment, she thinks he's just asleep. Then all hell breaks loose as the heart monitor flatlines and nurses rush in. A hand gently guides her out of the room. Damien shows up, his face completely pale, and they just hold each other while the doctors fight a losing battle inside. Finally, it's over. Within hours, the entire clan descends. Gabriella arrives first, her face a perfect, unreadable mask. Marco's parents fly in. Aunts, uncles, cousins, a bunch of strangers Avery's never seen. All pop up like specters in the hospital. Everyone's in black, and everyone is sizing each other up like sharks. The grief is heavy. Sure, but the raw ambition underneath is just as thick. Lorenzo's death created a power vacuum, and you could feel everyone jockeying for position. The funeral is a total show with hundreds of people she doesn't know, politicians, CEOs, straight-up gangsters, and guys who looked clean but probably weren't. Up at the front, Damien's face is a perfect mask of grief as he gives a eulogy that sounds flawless but feels totally empty. After, he moves through the crowd, shaking hands, accepting sympathies, playing the part of the heartbroken heir. Avery watches the man she loves disappear inside this role. Later that night, back at their mansion, Damien finally shatters. No tears. She's not even sure he can cry. He just sits on the bed, head in his hands, his entire body trembling from grief, exhaustion, and pure fear. "I am not ready for this," he chokes out. Avery sits next to him. "No one ever is. He just needed more time." "I needed more time." "He gave you all he had," she tells him. "He made sure you were set." Damien looks up, his eyes totally exposed. "Did he? Because I don't feel ready. I feel like a kid playing king, and they're all about to figure out I'm faking it." She tells him, "Then fake it till you make it. That's what I've been doing since I got dragged into this." "And see where that got me," he says. "It got us here, still standing, together. That's more than most people get." He pulls her close, and they just stay there for what feels like forever. No talking, no planning, just holding on while the pressure of their reality closes in. The will was read after the service. Avery wasn't invited. She was tied to them by marriage, not blood. So she had to wait back at the mansion with Mason, her mind racing with worst-case scenarios. Every hour Damien was gone, the dread in her gut got worse. When he finally called, 6 hours later, his voice was chillingly cold and flat. "Can you come meet me? I need you." She gets Mason to drive her, feeling nothing but pure terror. The mansion is a total war zone. She can hear shouting coming from Lorenzo's study. Someone's sobbing, someone else is screaming about lawyers and backstabbing. Mason guides her through the mess to find Damien and Gabriella, who both look like they just survived a bomb blast. "What's going on?" Avery asks, barely making a sound. "Gabriella drops the first bomb. Lorenzo left Damien the whole empire, every business, every cent. But there's a catch." "What catch?" A muscle in Damien's jaw twitches. "My marriage to you is now ironclad. No annulment, no divorce. If he ends things in the next 10 years, the entire fortune goes to a family trust. After a decade, the rule is gone, but by then the family would have full control, leaving him with zero." Avery's world just tilted. The old man planned this. He was dying, but he was a damn genius. Gabriella, with no emotion, drops another bomb. Lorenzo also gave Avery full control over all family finances and an equal vote on major business decisions. "He basically forced you into power, Avery." "I don't want his money," she says. "Too late. It's yours now. Or, more accurately, it belongs to both of them as long as they stay married for a decade." Gabriella looks between them. The family is furious, obviously. They're going to fight this. They'll sue. They're planning to make your lives a complete nightmare. But the will is airtight. Lorenzo spent the last 6 months of his life making it legally untouchable. "I need some air," Avery says, and before anyone can stop her, she's shoving her way through the angry mob and out into the garden. The desert night air is cold, and she hugs herself, struggling to catch her breath. 10 years. Lorenzo had chained them together for a whole decade. Part of her was pissed at the strategic move. But another part, the part that actually loved Damien, felt something different. Maybe it was safety, or maybe it was permission. Lorenzo basically ordered them to stop faking it. Damien finds her out there 20 minutes later. They just stand there quietly, looking at the Vegas lights. "I am sorry," he finally says. "For which part?" "For this. For the clause in the will. For dragging you into my mess." He pauses. "For the fact that even my grandfather's love came with strings attached." Maybe he was just trying to protect us by forcing us to stay together. "We would have stayed together regardless," Avery says, turning to him. "Right." Damien's composure finally cracks. "I cannot answer that, without it sounding like I'm just following the will." "Then pretend the will doesn't exist," she challenges. "If he gave you everything with no strings attached, would you still want me here?" "Yes." The answer is instant, no calculation, just pure honesty. "Yes, I would want you to stay. I would beg you to stay if that would work, but I can't promise you a safe life. I can't promise you peace. I can only promise to be better than the man this family turned me into. And I promise to love you through the whole fight." "That is enough," she says. She takes his hand and he pulls her into a hug that's both intense and protective. "But you still have to escape this life. You promised me." "I remember," he says. "I'm holding you to that promise." "I know." The next few months are an absolute war. The family divides exactly how you'd expect. A few of Lorenzo's old-timers cash out and retire. The younger crew breaks apart, some backing Damien, others plotting to take him down. Surprisingly, Gabriella becomes a key ally, using her influence to shut down conflicts and stomp out the biggest threats. But the wolves were still circling, hungry for a fight. Some nights, Damien would walk in looking like he'd been through a war zone, staying silent about the grimy deals he cut to keep his throne. Avery, seeing right through him, finally called it out one night. They were in bed, but he was light years away, 1,000 battles playing out on his face. She whispered, "I am losing you," he shot back. "I am right here with you." "No, you're not. You're trapped in your own head, planning hits you won't tell me about, and I'm watching you turn into the monster you swore you'd never become." That got him. He turned to her, finally admitting, "We have a problem with the Castellanos. Victor's nephew thinks he's owed a bigger cut. The kid's threatening to take what he believes is his." Avery, ever the optimist, asks, "Can't you just give him more?" But Damien knows the street. "If I do that, I'm chumming the water for every shark we work with. They'll all show up with their hands out. I have to draw a line." "What kind of line?" Damien's jaw clenched tight, the kind that puts people in the ground. "No," Avery whispered, sitting up fast. "No. You promised me you were getting out, not digging yourself 6 feet deeper." "I am, but I have to lock things down first. If I bail now, there'll be chaos and good people will die. My people. And if you stay, you become Lorenzo's ghost, building the exact same cage, making the same dark pacts, and in 20 years you'll be on your deathbed telling our son to run." "It doesn't work like that," he snapped. "The world isn't fair, but it's your choice. You can be the guy who ends this curse or the one who passes it on. You can't be both." Their standoff lasted for weeks, a cold war fought in hushed tones where every word was a dagger. He was stuck on securing his territory first. She argued there would always be another crisis, another reason to put their life on hold. Total gridlock. Then a sniper tried to take Damien out. It went down right after a meeting in Vegas. 1 second, he's walking to his car. The next, his man Mason is tackling him onto the asphalt as bullets shred the windows behind them. The news hit Avery while she was teaching a class. She sprinted to the hospital and found Damien already being looked over. "I'm fine," he insisted the second she flew through the door. A scrape from the concrete marked his forehead, but he was basically untouched. The shooter missed. Mason was faster. "You're not fine. Somebody just tried to murder you." Avery's hands were shaking so hard she had to make fists. This was it. Her absolute worst nightmare playing out in real time. "I know," Damien said, pulling her into a hug and ignoring the nurse completely. "I know. And you were right the whole time. It's over. We're done." Avery was stunned. "Are you serious?" 100%. I'm finished. Whatever it takes, whatever I have to burn to the ground, I am walking away. Was it that easy? It's that simple. Because the thought of losing you for real, that's a world I refuse to live in. But untangling from the mob takes time. It took a solid year of back alley deals and strategic retreats. Damien methodically sliced off the family's illegal operations, leaving the scraps to the vultures while he held on to the legit businesses. He built just enough of a firewall to keep the feds from knocking. It wasn't a clean escape, not even close. Old loyalties lingered, and favors were still in the books, chaining him to a world of blood oaths and shadows. But it was a beginning. It was enough for Damien to catch his breath, and enough for Avery to stop scanning news reports for his name. The family predictably lost their minds, hitting them with threats and pathetic blackmail. Things blew up at Thanksgiving when Damien's uncle smashed a wine glass over his head, screaming that he was spitting on Lorenzo's legacy. But Gabriella's will was iron, and with the old guard backing her, the rebellion fizzled out. By his second anniversary as boss, Damien's corporate makeover was complete. The Viscaris were now a legit, almost boring company, a change that would have made Lorenzo either beam with pride or spin in his grave. "So what's this feel like?" Avery asked, breaking the silence one night. They were in their room, a space that finally felt like a home, not a fortress. She'd erased the mansion's cold past with photos and open books, signs of a life being lived. "It's weird, too peaceful. I'm just waiting for the next bomb to go off." "It won't. It always does." "Not this time," she said, leaning in to kiss him. "We did it. Against all odds, we survived." "You say that like the war's over," Damien murmured, pulling her tight against him. "I'm not sure it ever is," he admitted. "But maybe that's all survival is. Just deciding to stay when it's easier to run. That's surprisingly profound." "I'm a new man." "No, you aren't. I'm trying to be." "Closer." 18 months later, they got married again, burying the memory of the cheap Vegas chapel. This time there was no contract, no lawyers, no backdoor exit. It was a real wedding, held in a garden free of Lorenzo's ghosts. To everyone's shock, Gabriella cried. Avery wore a simple dress, and Damien's suit projected hope, not power. "I can't believe we're doing this a second time," Avery whispered under a floral arch. "Third time's the charm." "This is our second." "I'm counting the courthouse trip to make the drunk one official. That's number 3. "That's not how numbers work." The officiant cleared his throat. "Whenever you're ready." They exchanged their vows then, real words from their own messed-up history, making promises they could finally keep, to choose each other, every day. After the I do's, Damien kissed her like it was the first and last time. "Was it worth it?" he whispered against her lips. Ask me again in 50 years. I plan on it. Their life fell into a new rhythm, one that felt like peace. Avery went back to teaching at a school funded by charity, not dirty money. Damien ran his legit empire from his home office, trading power lunches for quiet dinners with his wife. They argued, they made up, and they learned how to be married without a script. And one night, Avery dropped a bombshell. I want to have a baby. Damien looked up from his laptop, completely floored. What, a child? Yep, a tiny human. I'd like one. Since when? I decided about 3 months ago, but I was worried about how you'd react. Why would I? He trailed off as it clicked. You thought I'd refuse. You don't exactly scream Father of the Year. I don't scream a lot of things I turned out to be. He snapped the laptop shut. You seriously want to have a kid with me? Only ever with you. Just you. You know we'll be a train wreck, right? I have zero clue how to be a father. I doubt yours did either. You'll learn. We are going to screw this up so bad. We're pros at that. We've got years of practice. 2 years later, Avery found out she was pregnant. It was never in the plan, but nothing about them ever was. When she told Damien, he looked like she'd handed him the universe. Are you sure? I took 4 tests, all positive. 4. I'm thorough. He crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. And for the first time since she'd known him, she felt his hands tremble. We're having a baby, he said, the words full of awe. A baby! I'm probably going to ruin this kid. And I'll be right there to help you fix it. She kissed him. We can ruin it together. Their daughter arrived on a Tuesday, screaming with her father's iron will and her mother's killer timing. They named her Elena. The second the nurse put the baby in Damien's arms, he just shattered. Tears streamed down his face as he stared at her, like she was the most terrifying and incredible thing he'd ever witnessed. She's so fragile, Damien breathed. All babies are. What if I drop her? You won't drop her? What if she breaks? You are not going to break her. You're gonna love her, protect her, and be so insanely overprotective she can't date until she's 30. He shoots back. 40. Fine. They'll negotiate. 35 it is. Damen looks from Avery to Elena, completely lost. I don't know how to do any of this. She replies, neither do I, but we'll figure it out. We always do. And they did, but man, it was a chaotic mess. Elena was a tiny hurricane, a baby who straight up declared war on sleep for nearly a year. Avery went back to teaching part-time, spending her days covered in spit up and dreaming of 8 hours of sleep. Damen attacked fatherhood like it was a mob takeover, devouring parenting books and driving Avery nuts with developmental charts. She smiled today, he announced, storming into the bedroom while Avery tried to nap. That was gas. She's only 3 weeks old. He wasn't having it. No, it was a real smile. I saw it. It was gas, she insisted. It was a smile. She smiled because she knows I'm her father and she loves me. Avery just deadpanned. You've officially lost it. I'm a dad, same thing. 2 years later, a boy, Marco, joined the crew. He was named after Damen's cousin, a total power move for peace that stunned the entire family. All the old drama started to melt away after he was born. It's tough to hang on to old grudges when you've got grandkids to spoil. Even the exiled Marco Sr. could show up for dinner without kicking off a family crisis. He talked about some woman in Italy, 3 kids, a whole new life. He claimed he was a changed man, the rage inside him finally gone. His apology to Avery actually felt real because, let's be honest, she and Damen were the definition of a rebrand. Then, another chapter closed. Avery's mother passed away when Elena was just 3, slipping into a peaceful sleep, her mind finally free. Through all the grief, Damen didn't say much. He just became her anchor in the storm. Later, he told Elena stories, giving her the gift of a grandmother she'd never really meet. And right then, Avery got it. This brutal, beautiful, twisted life was the jackpot she'd been fighting for all along. Do you ever regret it? The question just popped out in the dead of night. They were totally wiped, worn out by 2 kids under 5, and Damen was already half asleep. Regret what? He mumbled. Any of it. The wedding, my choices, you breaking with your family. The silence was so heavy, she thought he'd finally passed out. Then, his voice cut through the dark. I regret that night in Vegas. Her heart stopped. Why? Because we were so out of it, we can't remember a thing. That one story is just gone. But everything that came after... He rolled over to face her. No, I don't regret a single second. You were the most beautiful disaster of my life. She scoffed. That's the worst compliment I've ever gotten. He smirked. You still married me 3 times. Your judgment is a liability. So is yours. You married me. Best choice I ever made. They fell asleep like that, tangled up in the dark. Avery dreamed of trashy neon chapels and terrible decisions, and how the worst night of her life somehow became her salvation. The years rolled on. Elena grew into a sharp, intimidating girl with her dad's grit and her mom's heart. At 7, she decided she'd be a lawyer for people who couldn't fight for themselves. Marco became the charming rogue who could talk his way out of anything, but underneath all the mischief, he was a genuinely kind kid. He's got your heart, Damen would say to Avery. That power to find the good in people, no matter how buried it is. The mansion was finally alive, filled with the kind of beautiful chaos money could never buy. Birthdays were a sugar-fueled mess. Halloween costumes were month-long projects. And on Christmas morning, the floor vanished under wrapping paper as kids woke up at 5 a.m. to get their loot. Gray started showing up in Damen's hair. Avery found new laugh lines by her eyes and loved them, seeing them as trophies of a life well lived. They started a foundation in Lorenzo's name, funding school and medical care for families trapped in the same desperate situations Avery once knew. And Damen poured everything into it with the same crazy focus he once had for his criminal empire. She watched the walls around his heart finally come down, revealing the man she always knew was there. Together, they gave futures to kids who had nothing. They took the crushing weight of hospital bills off the shoulders of desperate families. They did it all in the shadows, no cameras, no applause, because it was never for show. It was to make sure no one else had to face the impossible choice they once did. For their 10th anniversary, the real one, not the Vegas blur, they went back to the desert cabin. The kids were left with Gabriella, who sent them back loaded with candy and heavily edited stories from the old days. Do you remember what you told me here? Avery's voice was a whisper by the fire, a spot where time just seemed to stop. I said a lot of things, he whispered back. You told me I was important. You are, he promised. And you said you couldn't give me anything. I remember. You were wrong. You gave me everything. She leaned against him, fitting into that space by his side. You promised you would fight for this, and you never gave up. You're still fighting. For a vow we made while wasted, this is more than I ever dreamed of. Daman kissed her hair. Can I tell you a secret? Always. I was lying that night. I said I didn't remember the ceremony, but I remembered enough. I remembered your laugh after that terrible joke from the Elvis impersonator. I remembered you asking if this was really what I wanted. And I remember saying yes and meaning it, even though I was drunk, reckless, and totally lost. I remember thinking you were the first real thing I'd held in years. Then why lie to me? I couldn't have you feeling trapped. I needed you to choose me every single day, not because of a contract, a will, or one crazy night, just because you wanted to. And I do choose you every day, even when you're driving me crazy, especially when I am, especially then. They stayed at the cabin for 3 days, hitting a reset button they didn't even know they needed. When they got back to Las Vegas, the city felt different, smaller, its dangerous shine somehow dimmed. Or maybe they were just stronger, ready for whatever came next. Elena graduated high school at 17, a force of nature. She announced she was going to law school to fight for the little guy. Avery saw herself in her daughter, that same fire, that same need to make a damn difference. Harvard sent the acceptance letter. Daman barely held back tears dropping her off for her first year. She's going to change the world, he said on the drive home. She has your fire. She has it from both of us. Marco joined the corporate world but went into environmental tech, building something clean and new, breaking free from his family's dark past. At 23, he closed his first major deal. He called Daman, his voice shaky as it all sank in. Daman talked him through the massive moment. He told Avery later it was the proudest he'd ever been. Prouder than when you were named successor. Not even a contest. To see him build something good. That's what lasts. The years kept marching on. Gabriella died at 89, sharp as a tack until the very end. She passed in her sleep, and half of Las Vegas showed up for her funeral. The other half watched from a distance with a mix of fear and respect. Daman gave the eulogy, and this time his words about family loss and love were the absolute truth. After that, the family started to spread out. Some stayed in Vegas, others left to build new legacies. The huge house went quiet. Daman and Avery found themselves alone in a peaceful silence they'd come to love, just the two of them, free from all the chaos. We survived, Avery whispered one evening, as they watched a desert sunset that looked unreal. Now in their 50s, Avery's back acted up and Daman's knees weren't what they used to be, but they were there, together, still making that choice. We did. This was never meant to last. Nope, it really wasn't. And yet here we are. Here we are. Daman's hand found hers, his fingers weaving through her own. So get this. After all the chaos, they just worked. Like two jagged rocks tumbled smooth in a hurricane, still flawed, still messing up, but always picking each other, every single day. Then Elena calls, absolutely hyped after crushing her first major lawsuit. A takedown of some corporate pharma giant for jacking up insulin prices. Hundreds of families get a payout, and thousands more get saved by new laws she rammed through. She's a mess of happy tears and laughter, and Avery's right there crying with her, seeing her little girl become an absolute titan. "You're a killer, kid," Daman tells her. "Yeah, well, I had the best trainers," Elena shoots back. "Both of you." The call ends, and they're left in the silence of their house, a museum of their 2 decades of insanity. Photos plaster the walls, kids' drawings are still pinned up. A whole life built from the wreckage. Avery just says it out loud. "You think Lorenzo ever saw this coming?" Damen scoffs. "I think he just hoped for the best. That's all any of us can do, right? Hope and keep moving." Damen just echoes it. "Hope and keep moving and choose to love when it's way easier to just bolt." Outside, Las Vegas glitters, a city full of promises it can't keep. The exact place where they got shackled in a tacky chapel. The same city that damn near ended them. The very place where they built something that had zero business existing. The massive diamond on Avery's finger, a souvenir from that chaotic first morning, catches the last bit of sun. She plays with it, a monument to a marriage that started as a total sham and somehow became her ultimate truth. Next to it is the simple gold band from their real wedding. 2 rings, 2 promises, 1 insane love story. Out of nowhere, Damen says, "We should renew our vows." We literally did that 10 years ago. I know, I want to do it every 10 years, to remind ourselves why we keep doing this. That's completely absurd. So was marrying a stranger in Vegas. We still did it. Avery just loses it, laughing. "Fine, but I'm picking the spot this time." Deal. 6 months down the line, they're renewing their vows in the same garden as their second go-round. Elena and Marco are there with their partners. The whole loyal crew that survived the madness is there. Damen grabs Avery's hands and kicks things off. 20 years ago, I made a bonkers decision in a chapel at 3 a.m. I married a woman I'd never seen before because I was drunk, lost, and searching for something I couldn't even name. And against all odds, it turned into this. It turned into love, a family, a life I actually wanted. Then Avery, with a steady voice, fires back. 20 years ago, I woke up in a strange man's house with a giant diamond on my hand and pure panic in my chest. I was dead sure I'd made the worst mistake of my life. I was wrong. It was the best screw-up ever because it got me here, to you, to this life, to everything that's real. They kiss, the kids cheer, the sun sets, the whole perfect shot. Not perfect, not simple, but 100% real. That night, she hits Damen with a question. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if we got that annulment, if I'd just walked every single day?" "You do." "I do, and every day I thank my lucky stars you stayed. Even when I'm impossible, especially then, it means you're still here, still choosing me. Always." And the years just kept rolling on. Elena got married at 32 to a woman who cracked her up, pushed her, and loved her fiercely. Marco was next at 35, marrying his college flame in a ceremony that had everyone sobbing. Grandkids started showing up, 3 in 5 years, and the quiet mansion was suddenly loud again for the holidays. Damen finally stepped back at 65, handing over his legit businesses and making Avery his full-time job. They traveled, read, and sat on their terrace watching the sunset, talking about everything and nothing. Sometimes Avery would catch him just staring at her with this unreadable look. "What?" she'd ask. "It's nothing. Just so glad you're here." "Where else would I be?" "I don't know. Anywhere. You could have been anywhere, but you stayed right here with me. There's no place I'd rather be." For their 30th anniversary, he takes her back to Ground Zero, the chapel where their whole chaotic story kicked off. It looks smaller to Avery now, the cheap glitter worn down to something real and gritty. The same old Elvis impersonator is still haunting the stage, his voice rough with time. "Damen, why are we here?" Avery whispers. "Because I needed to remember how that night felt before everything got so complicated." Life was already complicated then. "Fair enough." Damen grips her hand. "But I wanted to stand here with you, sober this time, and tell you that if I had to do it all over again, the contract, the lies, the fear, the fights, I would, every single time. Because it all led me straight to you. You've gotten soft in your old age. I'm not old. We're 70. That's not old, it's vintage." Avery's laugh is low as she pulls him in. "I'd do it all again too, every bit. Even the messed up parts. Especially those parts. They made us who we are." In that budget chapel, with the ghosts of their past selves watching, they said their vows one more time. Not for a preacher or anyone else, just for them. Two people who had stared down every storm imaginable and were still standing. "I love you," Damen says. "I know. Still, always, even when I'm old and annoying." Most of all, then. They walked out into the Vegas night, a city of broken dreams, holding the only one that ever paid out. The city hadn't changed, but they were different people entirely. They'd become things they never planned on. Partners, lovers, parents, and then grandparents. They had become each other's safe harbor. And that, in the end, was the whole story. Not the insane gamble of a wedding, or the brutal empire, not the danger or the drama or the crazy odds. It was just the story of two people who made a catastrophic choice in a neon chapel and, against all logic, spun it into a love that refused to die. They lived, they fought, they fixed things. They chose each other over and over, especially when it was hard. And 30 years after a morning of pure terror, Avery woke up to total peace. Damen was right there, his hair silver, his face a roadmap of their life together. He was still her rock, her constant, her choice. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning. Coffee. Always." They'd get up together, a ritual 30 years in the making, and go face another day. Another chance to make the same damn choice. Another day to prove that out of total disaster, something incredible can grow. The ring on her finger flashed, breaking the light into 1,000 little rainbows. The exact same ring, its promise finally made real by time. She once woke up staring at a stranger. Now she woke up next to the man who knew every piece of her soul. He had seen the ugliest parts of her heart and never once looked away. The man who, with her, built a life out of ashes, guts, and a slurred "I do." In a chapel, their world was never perfect, but it was theirs. And that was enough, way more than enough. It was everything.
Life lesson. Violence does not begin with weapons. It begins with the belief that people can be used. He stands at the center of power believing he is preserving order. She stands at the edge of collapse believing she is choosing survival. Between them is a contract, but beneath it is something older and more tragic. The cycle of violence disguised as necessity. The man at the center of the empire does not begin as a monster in the simplistic sense. He is not driven by cartoon cruelty. He is the product of inheritance. He has been raised inside a system where affection is conditional, loyalty is strategic, and softness is punished. In such a world, love becomes indistinguishable from ownership. When he offers her 6 months of marriage in exchange for money and protection, he believes he is being rational. Yet what he calls pragmatism is simply violence in formal clothing. He is not striking her, but he is reducing her to function. That is where the moral wound begins. She, meanwhile, enters the arrangement not because she is foolish, but because desperation narrows the imagination. Poverty has a way of shrinking ethics into arithmetic. Rent, hospital bills, debt, survival. In that condition, a person does not always choose what is right. She chooses what is left. The story, therefore, refuses easy judgment. It asks a harder question. How many human beings become vulnerable to exploitation not because they are weak, but because the world has already cornered them? This is why the relationship becomes symbolically powerful. He sees structure. She feels suffocation. He thinks he is offering escape. She recognizes that dependence can become another prison. Their marriage is not merely a romantic setup. It is an allegory for the way power often presents itself as rescue while quietly demanding surrender in return. But the story does not remain there. Its deeper brilliance lies in showing that cycles can be interrupted, though never cheaply. He cannot love her while continuing to treat her as a strategic asset. She cannot truly stay with him while pretending that danger is simply the price of being loved. Transformation requires both of them to confront the logic that shaped them. He must unlearn domination. She must unlearn the belief that survival always requires self-erasure. In that sense, the old empire functions like inherited trauma. It passes from one generation to the next not only through bloodshed but through emotional design. Men are taught to equate hardness with worth. Women are forced to negotiate safety through compliance. Families call it legacy. The story calls it damage. Its most profound lesson, then, is not that love conquers all. That would be too simple. Rather, it suggests that love becomes real only when it breaks the script that violence wrote. When he chooses to step away from blood-built power, he is not merely choosing romance. He is choosing to end a lineage of emotional and moral repetition. When she demands that he become more than what he inherited, she is not asking for fantasy, she is asking for accountability. He once believed he was cultivating stability. In truth, he was watering a field of fear. Yet through loss, vulnerability, and repeated confrontation with what his world does to human souls, he begins to change. She does not save him through devotion alone. She saves the possibility of his humanity by refusing to romanticize what dehumanizes him. And that may be the central life lesson. Cycles of violence survive when people confuse protection with possession, power with worth, and control with love. They end only when someone is brave enough to say that inheritance is not identity. A person may come from darkness without choosing to become it.